Hello, hello, hello. Hope you're well, and welcome to this little Ableton crash course where we're going to talk about Ableton Live, how to get started with Ableton Live, and how to set up tracks, how it works. Just go through the very basics, and I'm going to make a little bit of music just to show what you can do with it. Which effects you can apply, and yeah, basically just the workflow, how it works, and yeah. So just to start with, I am working on a MacBook Pro with the OS Catalina, and but that's gonna work for any. I just wanted to add this, but it's gonna work for any OS. If you own Windows, it's gonna work as well, very well. So I wouldn't worry too much about this, but I just wanted to make sure and just just make this clear from the start. But it's gonna work for any different OSs. And yeah, this is Ableton Live 10. It's not standard, and it's the standard version, but it's not the intro or Ableton Live Lite or Suite, so it's Ableton Live 10 standard. So so let's just get started. So to start with, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go to the preferences. You can do this by hitting Command comma or Control comma if you're on a PC or Windows. And then you have this little pop-up window where you're gonna have different stuff over here. So you have the look and feel, you have the audio, your MIDI settings, some other stuff that I don't really touch, to be honest. Your libraries, your plugins, some settings for when you record, obviously the license and stuff. So yeah, the thing that I want to talk about that is really important is this section to start with, which is the basically the audio settings and where you're gonna get your audio from and where you're gonna play your audio to, basically. So there's two things that are really important. So your inputs and outputs. So here I'm using my universal audio interface, but you can also use if you have like a Focusrite or if you have a any type of audio interface. This is where you're gonna find it. I have all these other stuff that allows me to record the audio to different applications. So if I'm using Zoom, I'm using this Zoom audio device, for instance, and other stuff. So most of the time you will find your built-in microphone and your built-in outputs, so these where you're gonna play it from. Here I'm playing everything from the universal audio, but you can obviously have your input as your microphone and just put it with the built-in output. This is just an easier way for me to work, and I can get a cleaner sound from the interface. Then I have you have the second thing that is really important is the buffer size. So this is basically how fast your computer is going to process audio. So the higher samples you have, the more your computer is able to basically process audio, But the downside of this is that you're going to get latency when you do the playback. So when you press play, you might have a little bit of delay hearing the music and following what's going on during your session. And if you have a low number of samples, it's gonna create like different type of latency, and your computer won't have as much time to process a lot of audio. So you just need to find a balance to change these different latencies here. So yeah, that's those two settings are very important. The buffer size. If you have a lot of plugin that are like CPU heavy, such as Omnisphere or Serum, or some libraries, like contact libraries and stuff like this, you want to make sure you have enough samples so the computer can process a lot at the same time. But if you only have audio, like you can just like easily just go to a 512 samples or a 120 samples, especially for instance if you want to record audio like vocals or guitars or whatever. You usually just use a lower sample buffer size. So yeah, another thing I would like to talk about here is the look and feel. If for instance you don't like how Ableton looks like, you wanna, and for instance it's too bright for your eyes, you can obviously change here to different colors. You can have it in dark, different types of darks. Here I downloaded a few different like sort of skins, I'd say. So, oh wow, this one is a bit too bright. I didn't like this one. I didn't like this one either. It makes me think of the winter. So yeah, you can download these from the internet and install them. You can have the Ableton Live 9, how it was when it started. I like this. I prefer like the default one, and you can change the brightness as well if you want it not too bright or bright. And also you can change the zoom, the display. So here I'm 100%. I have a 15-inch MacBook Pro, but you can obviously change how big you want it to be. Obviously this is very extreme, but you can make it very big or just keep it as the default. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the preferences. You can have a look at some stuff here. For instance, the MIDI. If you have any MIDI keyboards, you would see them show up over here, which is pretty handy. So you can set the different inputs, and then they will work automatically with Ableton. Most of the plugins nowadays, they work automatically with Ableton, and but if you don't find them, if they don't work, you're gonna have to do some stuff here. You're gonna have to pick up which MIDI controller you have from this list, and basically allow some stuff over here like the track sync remotes in the inputs. Then also here, for instance, this thing here, I only use those buttons here where the session that you have at the moment, you can save it as a default, and every time you open your session, it's going to be the exact same session. Okay, so imagine you like to have a vocal track, a drum track, bass track, and all the stuff that you don't need to create every time you create a new session. Then you can just create once, save it as your default, and then it's gonna be there for you. So yeah. Then just the plugins. This is gonna allow Ableton to scan your computer for any third-party plugins. So imagine you are using Native Instruments or Serum, for instance, or the stuff that is not made by Ableton. You're gonna have to go there, rescan, and they will show up into your plugin folder that I'll show you in a bit. So yeah, and also when you install some plugins, they are going to they're gonna be detected by Ableton automatically, so you won't need to do this. But this is just a very handy thing if you don't see your plugin and you just want to rescan your library. So yeah, so let's move on now. The first thing I want to talk about is this bar, like all the transports, all these buttons at the top. If you've never really used them, basically you have Ableton Link, which is a very cool feature where you can sync up with Wi-Fi. You can sync up multiple laptops together. So it means they're going to be on the same tempo, the same grid, without latency. And so it allows you to basically play with your friends that are on Ableton, or that have like, if they have a for instance an application on their phone that uses Ableton Link, so you can be playing music with Ableton, and your friend could be playing something else on his phone, but you both gonna be synced. So Ableton Link is pretty good. It syncs over Wi-Fi. You're gonna have to create a unique network so they can all share it, and it works pretty well, to be honest. Then you have the tap, which basically allow you to, with your mouse, to tap the tempo that you want to achieve. This is the tempo. This is like nudging some stuff. I don't really use that, to be honest, but it's quite useful if you want to nudge a little bit. Also, like if you're not sure, actually, I'm not sure if this is the nudging thing, but if you want, you can come to that section here, the view, and you click the info. And every time you hover something, you can basically see what it is. And apparently, yeah, it says at the bottom, you can see at the bottom of the screen here, when I hover over this, they say it's a phase nudge down. And so they explain you, it's a temporarily decrease song tempo to synchronize the external music. I personally never use this, but if as a beginner, it's pretty cool to use this, to be honest. Using this info view if you need it. You can also toggle it like this and remove it, but it can be quite useful. Then here, this is your time signature, so you can change the signature if you want to. Most of the time, you would stay in 4/4, unless you want to try to do something that is more swingy, like 6/8 or like 7/8 and stuff like this. This is your metronome, so when you toggle it and you press play, you're able to hear the the sound. You can change the sound of it. You can go here and change the sound of the metronome if you don't like it. This is really up to you. I like the default one is fine. So this is the bars. So this is how long before you record, how many bars you're going to have. No, sorry, that's the counting bar. Sorry, that's the counting bar. This one bar, I'm not sure exactly what it does. I never really use it. So yeah. Then here you have different transports control. This little arrow thing here is basically following basically you have this cursor that's playing here. This black thing here is just having this on is gonna follow this black line and play your arrangement. I'll get back to the different types of views in Ableton as well in a bit. Then obviously this is just showing where you are on this session, which is the arrangement view. This is the arrangement view. I'll get back to this in a second. Then you have the play, the stop, record. Plus means that you can basically record on top of different stuff. You can, if you have like a section you want to record on without losing what you did, especially with MIDI. This is pretty handy. Then you have automation. These are like MIDI stuff, like MIDI capture. So you can be playing some MIDI on your computer or on your keyboard, on your MIDI controller, and you're like, oh no, I forgot to what's it called? I forgot to record my idea and it's gone. And when you press this thing, it's called capture. It's gonna basically, Ableton listens to you when you make music, when you play stuff, and it's gonna remember and save it. So yeah, this one is like it toggles a loop, so you can basically loop things. So that's a sort of a cursor that you can change, and everything below here is gonna be repeated or played in loop. Then you have this thing here, which is it's like a pencil tool where you can draw MIDI. This, you can toggle it by pressing B. Then you have this, which allows you to play MIDI with your keyboard, your computer keyboard. So like from A, S, D, and all these things. Like you can play the white keys, and the black keys are like W, E, and stuff like this. Key. This allows you to basically create little shortcuts, like record, for instance. You can say, oh, I want to press the letter R, and it's gonna record every time. So you just need to press what you want to map to. It's basically mapping your computer keys to what's it called, I'm struggling to a function, basically. It's the same thing with MIDI. So here, if you have a MIDI controller like that has like faders and knobs, you can assign those MIDI hardware knobs and faders to change the value of some settings over here. This is, I hope you're there. I don't know what I done. But this is the CPU, how the CPU is working, you'll see. And this is like just showing you if you have any MIDI coming in. I hope you can still hear me. I think you should. I think just Ableton switched at some point. But I'm just gonna make sure and restart from where I am. Hey, so yeah, it was working. So I just wanted to make sure like I wasn't going to film the entire video and then like having no sound. So yeah, so that's it for the transports and stuff. Now what I want to talk about is like the different views. So Ableton is known for having two different views. So you have the arrangement view that you can see here, basically, which is what most DAWs have, excuse me. And it's basically, you have the arrangement based on time. So it's like linear in time and goes from left to right. And then if you press tab, or if you toggle this button over here, you're gonna get to what's called the session view. So the session view is a very handy feature that Ableton has and is very known for. Basically allows you to have different clips over here, like audio clips, MIDI clips, and basically create combinations of these clips and create an arrangement. And each line is basically a scene. So you can play a scene by pressing play over here, and it's gonna play the entire row. And the way it works is that you have an arrangement that goes from top to bottom, okay? So it's not as like linear as this view here, because here you can really see the progress of the song in time. Whereas here you're basically playing with loops and sections. So you can use this in different scenarios. You can use this when you are creating stuff, like creating different ideas. You're like, oh, I want to do a drum pad, two different drum patterns, and combine them with these guitar loops, or maybe this one or that one. And then what you can do is like sets basically the combinations the way you want, and then you can record what you have onto this view later on. And when you press these scenes over here, it's basically you go from section to section. Going from top to bottom is like going from left to right here. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, what can I say? So yeah, you can just press tab to toggle between the two. It's pretty handy. If you're playing live, that's something I wanted to say as well. If you play live, you can have all your clips or your songs over here and just like launch the clips and it's gonna play, basically. It's quite awesome. It's really good for that. The only downside is that if you have to stop in the middle of it, you're gonna have to either restart, not your session, but restart your song, or that's pretty much it. So you have to be careful. You have to know that it can happen. But if you only want to make production and writing songs and stuff, I really strongly recommend to use this view. So so basically now I'm going to talk about the browser, which is here. So this is where you're going to find all your sounds, all your effects. So and you can have your favorites as well as I already have set up here. Basically you're going to find all the different sounds here. So you have, like, imagine you want some pianos, you're going to find different instruments that come with Ableton. Basically you have pianos and stuff like this. You can select them and drag them over here. You have drum kits as well. You can create your own drum kits as well. I'll show you how this works. This is the same sort of view as the previous one, but this has a more detailed. Here you need to go and look for them. It's a bit more annoying. Then you have the different MIDI effects that you can apply to MIDI tracks, and your plugins, as we saw on this previous view over here, this one here, the plugin view. You're gonna find all your different plugins. So you have audio units. Audio units are just plugins that work. It's the version of a plugin for macOS basically, and then you have VSTs that work for basically work for PC, both for PC, Windows, I'd say, and macOS. And here you have the different packs. You can create different folders. You can add folders where you have your samples. So you're like, oh, I want to add vocal sample folders and stuff like this. So you can pick them up here, and they're gonna appear over here. Like I have here, I have all my sample packs with different sounds, and yeah, it's pretty handy. So you can find things really quickly. So yeah. Let's talk about tracks now. You have MIDI tracks. MIDI tracks are basically tracks where you can, if you're not aware of it, MIDI tracks are basically tracks where you can put MIDI instruments and like Serum, once again, or any virtual instruments basically. And the way to create MIDI tracks, you can do a right click and say insert MIDI track, and or do Control Shift T or Command Shift T if you're on a Mac. Control Shift T is for PC or Windows. And then you have the same for audio tracks, so it's just like Control or Command T, and the return tracks as well, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So yeah, so you have those different tracks over here where you can basically create MIDI here and record audio over here, or place some audio, which I'll show you. So another thing I want to talk about is those tracks here, which are return tracks. So basically these tracks by default come with a reverb and a delay, and you have the master track below. These two tracks are basically tracks that allow you to share one. They are like auxiliary track, but they allow you to share one effect to all your tracks in your session. So what you can see, for instance, is that you have those little boxes here that are a minus infinity. So basically it works in a way that you will feed this track over here by using this little fader over here. So when you put at 0 here, it's like it means all the sound that is on this track is going in here and is going to be affected by the effect that we have here, for instance, which is a reverb. And you can do the same with this one. So they can share basically the same sound, the same effect, let's say. I'll also demonstrate this. It's going to be much easier to see. And you can have up to I don't remember exactly how many you can have, but it can go as far as G. So it goes from A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah, about 6, 7, something like this. So yeah, then I'll show you what you can do with. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to talk about is this view here. So that view at the bottom when it says drop audio effects. So this is basically your effects chain where you're gonna put all your plugins and stuff. So imagine I want to put an EQ. So I'm like, okay, let's just get, for instance, yeah, an EQ. Where is my EQ? Here there's an EQ, and I'm like, you can drag it like this, and it's going to be applied to the track you selected, okay? Or you can also, if I delete it, you can also just select your track and double click on the plugin, and it's going to open it here. And the way it works is like the effect chain goes from left to right. In most DAWs, they go from top to bottom, like on Logic, for instance. Like you stack up the effect chain, and it goes from top to bottom. Here it goes from left to right. So you need to know that this is how it works. So yeah, otherwise on the tracks, what's really important is like all these different buttons, but I guess you're familiar with them. I'll just cover them real quick. So you have the mute button, the solo button, and the arm button, which allows you to record. If you don't have this enabled, nothing's gonna get recorded. And so yeah, then you have all these different little what's it called, buttons here as well. That's like this is the volume fader, allows you to make your track louder or not. And this is if you want to pan them left or right. I'll show you. Let me drag a little drum loop or something, and I'll show you what I mean by this. Yes, I'll come here. Let me find. Okay, so I'll drag this over to that section here. And what I'll do is like I'll just unwrap it so you can hear it. So I can do is like I can also, if I put it to the right tempo, so this is 135, okay. If I put 135 here, then it's gonna align to the grid. So if I play it again and I loop it, so you can loop it by clicking the loop here and drag it here, so you can play this in loop. Or you can also click on your clip, select it, and press Control or Command L, and it's gonna basically loop it for you. So if I play this, now I can basically change the volume and change the panning. So listen. Dragging it low and up again. And I can go from right to left. And if I want to mute it, I can just mute it like this, and it's not being, you can't hear it. It's still playing, but you can't hear it. Then you can also use your microphone to record some stuff. So for instance, if I'm just solo this track and I press I'm just gonna remove the loop as well, and I press this button here. So I need to have my track armed, and you can see that like when I'm talking, the fader over here is receiving some stuff. So I'm just gonna record real quick. So I'll just be like, I'm just gonna record this. Okay, hi, this is Aurelian, and I'm giving a little lesson on Ableton Live 10. So now, what I can do is just play this back, and I will hear my voice. Okay, hi, this is Aurelian, and I'm giving a little lesson on Ableton Live 10. So that's really handy. Not handy, but this is how you basically record stuff. Yeah, I'm just gonna delete those. You can do the same with MIDI. You just need to have a MIDI instrument on it. So if I go, for instance, to what's it called? My plugin. I'll just use one of Ableton's plugins. So if I go and I add like a keyboard over here, like a grand piano, so I'll just take it and drag it. Now I don't have a MIDI keyboard with me, so I'm just gonna use this feature over here. And when I press my keyboard, my laptop keyboard keys, it's gonna play the notes. So I'm gonna play. So for some reason, I don't know why, but my interface is pitching in a different key. It's like a little off. Maybe I need to come back here and put 48 and see what happens. That sounds much better. That sounds more like a C major scale, I think. Yeah, so you also need to be careful at this. So that's like the sample rate. If it's too fast, it can really change the pitch of your song, which you need to be careful. But this is really advanced anyways. So yeah, so like as you saw, I'm playing all my keys on my laptop, and it's playing. So if I want to record this, I just do the same, arm my track, and then just press play here, record, and I'm just gonna be able to record a MIDI clip. So let's do that real quick. Okay. Here I didn't have any metronome, so I was a little bit off. So what I can do is I can delete this, put the metronome on, and just do it with the metronome. Okay? And what I wanted to show with this capture thing is that imagine I'm trying different melodies, okay? So I'm playing and I'm trying a few different melodies, okay? Like and then suddenly I'm like, oh no, I forgot what I did. I don't know. I really don't remember what I did. That's a shame. So don't worry, Ableton got you. And you press on this capture button here. And basically, Ableton will have listened to what you did. And then you find your melodies again. So if I play it again. Pretty awesome, isn't it? So yeah. Then what you can add on these tracks, like all the effects I was talking about, for instance, is like the different audio effects or MIDI effects. So for instance here, there's a cool MIDI effect that you can add if you're lazy, or like if you don't have any musical theory, which is fine. I don't really have an amazing music theory knowledge, and you want to basically play a scale that you don't know, or like you want to trigger some chords, you can come to that MIDI effect, for instance, the chord MIDI effect, and be like, I want to trigger some major chords. So you click this and you drag it before your instrument, MIDI instrument. And now when you press your keys or on your MIDI controller or on your laptop, it's going to play some chords. So now you can record this. Okay, and then you can play this back. And there are different stuff you can also apply an arpeggio. I'm not sure if this is gonna work here because there's only one note, but let's see. An arpeggio is just gonna play the notes of the chords one after the other. If you go up, you can go up and down, up and down, and all these different presets. But you can just play around with it and see what sounds good, because what we have to remember is that you need to have fun making music, which is really important. So I'll just do this real quick. So it's basically working, but it's only playing one note. So it's playing the same chord a few times. You can change the speed here with the rate. And but I'm going to show you exactly what it does. So if I decide to play real chords, which I'm going to do now, I'm going to just play oops, it's already doing what I wanted. So you can deactivate plugins by pressing this little yellow button here. Okay, so I'm just going to record a major 7 chord. And now when I'm going to activate the arpeggiator, it's basically going to play the chords, each note of the chords one after the other to that rate, which is like 8. So you can use this to your advantage as creatively as possible. So yeah, that's pretty cool. There's like a lot of different ones. You have the velocity, you have the pitch, you have different type of stuff. And on top of this, you can add what's called audio effects. So any audio effects, like the EQ, like we saw, for instance, here, an EQ like that. You can also add a compressor. Where is it? You can, if you don't find if you can't find any plugins, you can do you can come here at this bottom here, or press Command F and type compressor, and it's gonna appear here. And then just double click on it, and it's gonna appear over here. So yeah, so that's pretty handy. This key, this search bar, if you don't find anything. Now it's time to actually make some music. So I'll show you how you can make a quick beat within Ableton, and show you the different ways you can do it, and how I do it, and yeah. So let's get started. So first, I'm just gonna remove all these effects. And by the way, all your tracks, so all these tracks plus these tracks over here, they all gonna go to the master track. Excuse me. And so the master track is your last track, I'd say, where all your audio is gonna go. And then when you export a track, this is how it's gonna. This is what you hear on the master track is what you're gonna hear on what you export, if that makes sense. But maybe you already know this. So yeah, so let's just dive into it. To start with, I'm gonna introduce why I like to make drums. I do drums. I'm a drummer, so I make drums in 2 different ways. But the most common way for beginners is to use a what's called a drum rack. So on this first track over here, I'm gonna double click. I'm gonna have a drum rack here. And so what a drum rack is like, it's like a bunch of cells, okay, that there's up to 120 cells basically, and in those cells you can drag whatever you want basically, pretty much. You can drag samples, effects and stuff. It's pretty cool. So basically this is how I make drums. So I'll show you this in 1 second. For instance, I don't really like that name drum rack. So what you can do is press Control R if you're on Windows or Command R on Mac, and you can basically rename the track. So if you keep that dash over here, it's basically gonna, it's not really a dash, it's like a hashtag thing. It's gonna keep the number of the track, but if you don't want to keep it, you just override it and just write drums. I like to write this way. So yeah, now what I'm gonna do is like I'm gonna drag some samples. You can also, if you don't have any samples, you can drag, you can double click on any of those drum kits that you can hear, by the way. And if you double click on this, it's gonna open it, and you can see that it's like fairly similar to a drum rack. You have like the same sort of cells, and you can play those different sounds. Okay, so that's like one way you can do it. Another way you can do it, like I did, is using a drum rack by itself. So if I just delete this one and open a drum rack again, what I like to do is just drag samples that I like. So let's just go through the samples I have here. Imagine I like this kick. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drag that sample over here, and it's gonna appear here. Okay, then let's say I like, let me find something that sounds cool. Let's say I like this hi-hat. Then what I'm gonna do is drag this hi-hat onto let's say the E cell, and on the D cell I'm gonna put a snare drum like this one. So basically, if I bring this down a bit slower, like imagine let's say 90 BPM. What I'm gonna do now is basically I'm gonna record the MIDI. I'm gonna record these drums playing with my laptop keyboard. So on my laptop keyboard I play A. Oops. You see, this is something interesting. When I play, it's playing. You can see that little yellow thing here. It says I'm not on the right cell. The way you can go to another cell is by pressing, depending on your layer. My layer is like at the bottom. I have Y and X instead of having Z and X. So I have Y and X, and Y and X allow me to go by 12 cells, but by a bunch of cells. So now I can tell I'm still too high, but I'm getting closer. So if I go down again, yes, I have my kick. You know, I'm actually gonna put this one here. So let's make a quick beat. I don't know what type of music you make, but I like hip hop, so I'm just gonna make a little bit of hip hop and something that is audible. So let's do it. So I'm gonna engage the what's it called, the metronome, and we're gonna create a little loop. So I'm gonna do this and record a little loop. Let's do it. Okay, now you can see it's been recording on top of it, so I just need to do Command Z, and now I'm gonna have my my drum kit here. So now we're gonna get to the MIDI editing. So MIDI editing is basically all your sounds are on a they basically represented on a piano piano keyboard. Okay, and here I'm playing, I guess this is C. Which one is it? This is C1, and then you have D1 and E1. So you can see that it's here, and you basically can change those little events. Okay, so I didn't play this super well, so what I can do is like quantize everything. So if you can basically move these things. So this is where MIDI is so handy. You can really replace things the way you want, so they sound more natural or more robotic or more in time. You see what I mean? And you can zoom out and zoom in. You can also zoom out and zoom in using this magnifier here. That works actually here as well. If you hover here and click and drag and up and down, it's going to zoom. Okay, you can do the same here. Yeah, so let's just make these drums a bit better. So there's two ways you can do it. You can do it manually, so you can be like really placing the sounds or the MIDI notes onto the grid. Okay, or if you're very lazy, like I am sometimes, you can right click and you can do you select everything, okay, by doing Command A or Control A, and then what you do is like you do quantize, or you can go to quantize settings if you want to have a look. Quantize settings basically chooses the grid where you want to quantize everything to, and the amount is like how sensitive you want you want Ableton to quantize these ones. I like 45%, so it's still a little bit more natural. So and you can change here. So let's for instance put eighth notes. So if we do this, you're going to see that all these little blue MIDI notes are going to move to the grid. Poof. Pretty cool, right? Some of them are still not in time. So what you can do is like just select one and just do it again. And it's getting better, but I'm still not satisfied. So I'll just do it one more time. And it's much better. So if you play it now, if you play the beat now without the metronome, you see this one is not played very well. So you can, I usually just drag it. This one is not on time either. You can also play with your arrow keys. It's gonna snap it to the grid. Here, a little bit sloppy as well. And you can also, like something I need to mention, you can play. You see that little speaker? You can, when you click there, it plays from where you select. Okay, same for here. It's pretty handy. Let me just place these again. Hi-hats, I'm not super concerned about them. Well, actually, they're bothering me, and like I said, I'm a drummer, so I need them to sound good. So let me just do that real quick. There you go. You have your first drum loop over here, which sounds pretty cool so far. Then what we're gonna do, let's drag some chords over here. So for instance, let's put a piano over here. So I can just do Command F, which is to look, search for piano. Let me see if I can find a piano. Yeah, cheap electronic piano. Let's drag this one over here. Right, so if now I press any of my keys. Okay. But I'm really lazy, so what I'm gonna do is like I'm gonna basically take a MIDI chord progression. So it's like a MIDI file, and you can drag the MIDI to that file onto this region here, and it's gonna basically play chord progression. You can also play yourself, like we did before. You can record your stuff, but sometimes I like to be a bit faster. So usually, let me find a good, like, I don't know. Let's see what Cymatics has. We say we're doing hip hop. Well, let's see what's going on here. Yeah, I'm not sure. These are only audios actually, but MIDI progressions. I'll come here. Because I have piano on, that's why. Yeah, if you keep something over there, like you won't see as much. If you have something here that is not on this folder, you're not gonna see anything. So that what happened to me. Oops, but that's okay. So let's see. Imagine what's. Okay, I'll drag this over here and see how this sounds. And the cool thing about this is that imagine you don't like this scale or like this key, let's say. If you don't like the key of this, you can basically change it. So we know that they said it was in C minor. So you can select everything, okay? And by the way, the fold button is really nice if you want to change some MIDI notes that are very close. It basically puts all the MIDI next to each other, the MIDI notes, and you can really use them. It's easier to see as well. If you want to change the key, you can select them all, and then with your up and down keys on your keyboard, on your laptop keyboard or PC or whatever, you can change the key. So you can just imagine I want to be in E minor, so I will go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I am in E minor. Okay, sounds pretty good to me, so I'm gonna keep this. And then I just feel like this plugin is a little, I mean, not plugin, but the sound is a little bit dry, so it doesn't sound bright. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is like I'm gonna show you what you can do by adding some reverb. For instance, so reverb over here, you can drag and drop that reverb over here and just play it and see how it sounds. Okay, but you remember those tracks over here? I'll show you what you can do with them. So basically, I'm gonna turn this off, and I'm gonna do the send here, and sending the sound of this track to this track that has a reverb. Let's hear how it works, so you'll see. So if I just solo it, listen. You can hear the reverb, which is here. Pretty cool, no? So only one effect for this track here, but if I add like the drums, for instance, imagine I want to add the drums, a little bit of reverb to the drums, I could do the same. So let's listen. So if I do this, and now if we played both together, it's pretty handy, you know, it's like really nice. And the delay here, you can also use it let's see how it sounds like. Pretty cool, isn't it? So yeah, so let's now add a little bass real quick. So to add a little bass, I'm gonna press Command Shift and T, so it creates a new MIDI track. Don't pay attention to this. This is like very advanced stuff. And here we're gonna put a bass. Okay, let's put a bass. And let's see if I can find a bass. So if I press this, bass. Let's see. Oops. Yeah, maybe more. Let's use this one as an example. And then if I press. So I know that I am in the key of E minor. So what I can do, if you know how to play piano and stuff, it's going to be much easier for you. But on my keyboard, my laptop keyboard is going to be a bit difficult. So what I'm going to do is basically cheat a little bit. I'm going to put a MIDI effect and I'm going to come here and say, I want a scale and I want to start off with the C minor, okay? But then I'm just going to transpose it to get to the E minor. So we said it was, let's do the bass here. E. So let's see. That was really rubbish, I'm sorry. But what I'm gonna do is like I'm just gonna look at the notes real quick. What they playing? They playing E, C, and B. Super easy. So I'll just do that. It's gonna be much easier. And if you press Option, Command, and L, this is a really cool shortcut. It's gonna remove this window here. Poof. You can bring it back up and down. Okay, let's do that real quick. I'm gonna remove this and play those notes again. E, C, and B. Is that playing a C? Oops. Let's try that. Unfortunately, I don't have enough keys on my what's it called, laptop. So now I can do is just find the B, and there you go. And let's see how it sounds. And if I select those keys and I press Shift and down, it's gonna go an octave below. There you go. And see how it sounds like. Also, my play was super bad, my playing, so I'm just gonna quantize things here. Okay. And what I want to do is like, I haven't played here at all, but I feel like it would be nice to have some notes. So I can either double click and it's gonna add a note, or I can press the B key on my computer keyboard, and then I'm able to draw the notes. So I'll be like, let me just draw this real quick. Poof. Like that, and then like this, and then like this. And then what I want to do is just make those notes a little bit longer. If you hold Control or Command, you can be more precise on how you want to adjust the length of a MIDI clip. Okay, same with here. Let's see how this sounds. So there you go. So that's like a first very, very simple beat that we just made. Then what you can do is basically record some vocals on top of here. Like, let's just do that real quick for fun. So I'll just, I don't know, I'll improvise something. Hey, this is the brand new... I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah, you can basically do a lot of stuff here. Hey, this is the brand new... I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah. And you can tell, like, it's very quiet, but the way you can make it a bit louder, there's two ways you can do this. Is like, you can increase the volume here, but you can only go up to 6 plus 6 dB. So let's listen. Oops. Hey, this is the brand new... I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah, you can, it's still quite low, but the way you can change this is like when you double click on an audio effect, on an audio clip, sorry, you can change how loud it's gonna be. So if I use this fader here and make it louder like that, it's gonna be louder. Hey, this is the brand new... I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah, you can basically do a lot of stuff here. You can also change the pitch of it. So if you want to sound more high pitched, you go up.
Hey, this is the brand new... I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah, you can basically do a lot of stuff here.
You can go lower as well if you want.
Hey, this is the brand new... I don't know what I'm saying.
So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with... also, one last thing I wanted to quickly say before I wrap up this video is basically the concept of automation. So automation is really handy if you want to change things over time. So imagine, for instance, you want the drums to basically come a bit later in the sound. You want to have like a fade in. You can automate the volume. Okay, so I'll show you how to do this. I'm also gonna mute myself. Oh, the way you can do it is like select the clip and press the 0 key on your laptop, and it's gonna deactivate the clip. Okay, so let's do a little bit of automation here on the drum. So if you press A on your keyboard, you're gonna have these lines here. If they don't appear, you can also, if you have this engaged, you know, like the MIDI option here, you're not gonna be able to see them. But if you press this button here, it's gonna allow automation anyways. But if you press A on your keyboard, you're gonna see them. So let's say we want the drums to fade in. We're gonna click on the parameter that we want to basically automate, and we're gonna draw a little curve like this. So you click on this red line. I don't know if you can see it. If you click on it, it creates little circles, and you can move those circles. So what I'm gonna do is like I'm gonna do a long fade in of the drum. So you bring it down, and then you'll see that this automates the volume. So this line is basically representing the volume. So let's hear this. I'll go very extreme. That's pretty cool. It's gonna come back now. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And you can do this with almost everything over here, especially the panning, the mute, the sense, the volume, and all these things, and you can get super creative with it. You can also automate any effects. Like if you have an EQ8, for instance, you can imagine you want to roll off some low end here. You can do the same. So if you press A and you press on the frequency, it can just go up like this, and then it's gonna basically change the value of this EQ. Look at this. It's pretty cool. So yeah, one more thing I would like to show real quick is when you want to arrange your song, you can obviously select a cell or a clip and press Control C and Control V. Okay, but that can be very long. So the way you can do this in a faster way, you can press Command D or Control D, and it's duplicating your cells. You can do this like that, okay? And if you want to duplicate everything, you can select everything over here and press Control D, and it's gonna duplicate everything, which is pretty cool. But it's also duplicating all your automations. So that's something you need to be aware of. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this crash course introduction. I hope it was helpful. I really hope also like it wasn't too complicated or too technical. Just let me know if you want me to explain more stuff. I'll be really happy to do it. And yeah, remember to have fun making music, and I'll talk to you very soon. Take care.